Hey, this is Rocket Brain Surgeon. Today we're looking at the WZ-120. We're following Garbat around as he wraps up his review on the Chinese line. Link in the comments, go check it out. Here we are on Cliff. And he's going to the standard spot, typically referred to as the donut, middle, whatever you want to call it. He wants to set up a double bush effect, which means he's going to stay far enough from the bushes to where he can fire and hopefully remain invisible from the enemy. However, this is going to be screwed up just a little bit. The Object 416 that is near him is going to proximity spot him, so he's not able to play those vision games which he wants to play. You can see that he's hanging back a bit, hoping not to get proximity spotted and hoping that, rather not hoping, but knowing that those bushes will not turn translucent because he's far back from them enough. As you just saw, the turret is capable of bouncing a lot of shots. It's very hard when hauled down. The difficulty is there is very little gun depression on the tank, making hills somewhat difficult. Now on Cliff, I actually like going to the lower part. Generally when you have not a lot of gun depression, you want to play on the absolute bottom or absolute top of hills. Playing on the sides of hills is not going to work out too terribly well for you in most cases. The platform of the WZ-120 is excellent. It's pretty much a T-54, so it's going to have that great camouflage, going to have that great mobility, and that awesome tough turret. What gives the WZ-120 that special flavor is the gun. The gun sports 440 alpha. That is very good for a medium tank. 249 penetration on the base AP round is also excellent and should have you shooting very little gold ammo. If you need to shoot the gold ammo, the heat round at 340 penetration is more than enough for everything that you're going to face. The downside to the tank is purely the fire control, whereas the T-54 is pretty much point and click. The WZ-120 has some spotty accuracy and some terrible aim time. But we're still comparing it to the T-54, which is the best tank in Tier 9, and you know what? If it doesn't beat the T-54, that comparison means it still comes close. So this is the area where I like to spend a lot of time in the WZ-120. I don't have to deal with the horrible gun depression, and that gradual slope hides most of the hull while I can be hauled down and not worry about having problems with the hill. The downside to that flat area is artillery first and foremost. It's slightly better to be on this hill so you can take advantage of the reverse slope. However, there is no artillery here. My guess is Garbat just wants to play the vision game throughout the bushes. Plus, I guess there's a couple people already in that firing lane, so there's going to be enemies pre-aimed in on that area. Pushing Cliff is very difficult. We know that there are tank destroyers sitting in A5. I mean, that's pretty easy to tell, but the problem is if you try to push around the west hill around E4-ish, the A5 tank destroyers can hit you, can still be invisible, and then you have to deal with getting shot from multiple sides from the E6 square as well as the A5 area. So pushing there is not great. Around the east side of the mountain over on the 9 line, again, pushing around that corner, you're just going several hundred meters in the open into tank destroyers as well. So pushing Cliff is hard, and even though the green team started out with a significant lead, they've let that lead dwindle because they keep peeking into all of those tank destroyers. Pushing the 1-2 lines on Cliff is nearly impossible, and the reason why is even when you get down there and you push into like C2, D2, the enemy can just bleed you around the corners. You can't really win by a 1-2 push because the people on the cliff are going to be hauled down. You're going to be completely exposed down there. It's just awful pushing the 1-2 line from either side. So notice that it looked like there was an opportunity to push the 9 line. He actually declined, and he's going back to play in the middle because he knows that there are tank destroyers in the A5 area and that he's going to be pushing into invisible tanks and most likely die outright. So the middle is under continued pressure, and he is going to try and set up that invisible sniping through the bushes. He's staying far back from the bush so he does not get spotted when he fires, and he's easily able to take out a tank destroyer in the distance. Here we can see the hills giving him a little bit of trouble with that gun depression, not being able to get the gun down far enough. Also, he uses auto-aim a lot because the tanks that he's shooting just do not have the armor, so it doesn't really matter where he hits them. And the auto-aim is screwed up because Wargaming likes to break replay functionality from patch to patch, which happens about every month or two. So Cliff is decided by the team that best dominates the middle, and so far both teams have been incredibly diligent about reinforcing the middle. You can see that either team is not really interested in flanking because, again, the problems of exposing yourself to invisible tanks in the distance. The green team does have some members attempting to flank in the E3 and the E9 areas. However, the E3 area just got taken out. Again, poking into the enemy, it's just attrition. But the good thing about attrition and medium tanks is that the more enemies that leave the field, the more opportunity that you have. So now that the numbers have dwindled by quite a bit, Garbad is going to make his way around to that flank, hopefully using the strong camouflage to fire unseen on the enemy. The problem is an AT-15 came up right in front of him, and he got lucky in bouncing that shot. The AT-15 would have had to max roll to kill him, but there was still the possibility of disaster there. So there's a tiny lead in the game, and now Garbad is making his way up to kind of a tank graveyard right here. Generally that's going to be a warning sign, like all these tanks dead in this area. It's like, hey, somebody's aiming here, probably shouldn't go. But it's a high reward area in which he can fire on the Roomba and the remaining medium left and hopefully not be able to be shot from that A5 area. The green team finally comes out in the battle for middle supremacy, and the Roombas just are not good at carrying in this type of situation, so their time is limited. The WZ-120 remains a favorite of mine, and I typically choose it over the T-54 for its wonderful style of play. Not only can I scout, but it also brawls really well. I don't need to spend a lot on premium ammo because the base penetration is very high. Definitely one of my favorite tanks in the game. Hope you enjoyed. Happy hunting.